Hey there, hopefully. Welcome to the Gyro Step, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, proudly a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and GSPN. I am Ty Windisch, one of your hosts. Okay, we are live. I just saw it update. A little bit of issue with the stream, but it's okay. Rohan, the only time that matters now is Dame time. Rohan Katti, my co-host. Sir, how is it going?
I am elated, Ty. I am elated. First of all, the Bucks started their season. How can you not be happy about it?
Yeah.
Second, what did we just watch? Like, what? I'm still trying to process and fathom what just happened because obviously we're doing this live. For anyone listening later, we are doing this live right, like almost immediately after the game ended, and it's just going through my head like how far this team has sort of come, like how different this team is compared to what it was last season. By the way, change for the better. By the way, the Bucks have two superstars. They don't have one star and a great all-star supporting cast. They have two freaking superstars. Damian Lillard, Ty, that was one I didn't have high expectations for this debut. I said on our preview pod with Adam and Jordan that I wouldn't be surprised if this kind of started off slow. If it kind of, it took a while for Dame to get acclimated and sort of get used to playing in a new city for a new franchise, for a new coach, with new players around him, trying to fit into a contender. Just go out there and put up the most points ever in your Bucks debut. Easy. Break Terry Cummings' record.
The come man.
Yeah, easy. Just go and smash that record. And by the way, do it in clutch fashion with just putting the game away with a step back ISO 3 and then 2 free throws to seal the deal. Just magical Ty.
It was the fourth most points by any player in a team debut all time per ESPN stats and info that Jordan Tresky dropped into our chat. I also see Jordan, or into our Discord chat. I also see Jordan in the YouTube chat asking about Robin Lopez. We'll get to Robin Lopez way later. First, I ask facetiously, do the Bucks have two superstars, Rohan, or they just have one?
They have to. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it because while Dame had the performance of a lifetime, it was not the best thing we've ever seen, to be honest. But
Yeah.
let's focus on the good first, and that's just one, the Bucks starting off this season with a W, undefeated, never lost in the Damian Lillard
There we
era.
go. Did you tweet it yet?
I did.
Okay, good.
Uh, and just I don't know what else you could ask for. Like we have to talk about Dame. We have to talk about Dame. So in the first quarter, I don't remember, what did he get, that three in the first quarter, and it's like kind of slow, and then all of a sudden you go out there and you put up 17 points in the second quarter, sort of like, okay, now it's a your turn, my turn sort of situation. Giannis sort of dominating the ball in the first quarter. Giannis gets his rest. Dame's like, okay, showtime, and he puts on a show, puts up 17 in that second quarter, and you just see the offense being so free flowing. I've never seen a Bucks offense run like this time. I've never seen it. Like I think we might have, I might have underestimated how Damian Lillard's going to affect an offense, because
We totally underestimated Dame. I think we didn't want to. I don't know. I think there's just like a Bucks fan thing to always expect like the most underwhelming, but he's so much better than we could have even hoped.
it truly
He's so good.
was. It's like, because he's been on these Blazers teams that haven't done a whole lot, and it's sort of led to a discourse of like, oh my god, is this guy actually who he is, or is he an empty stats bad team sort of guy? No, he's not. He's just an amazing player. I'm struggling to speak right now because I'm still trying to process what I just watched.
Yeah.
I
Um,
like I was just saying, I've never seen a Bucks offense flow like this, because the Bucks have never had a player like this ever.
Never.
Ever. Full stop. Ever in their entire franchise history, they have not had a player who can just command an offense like this, create like just pure gravity on his shots, demand double teams on the perimeter. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. He is that perfect fit on this Bucks team that we always thought he would be. It's just, I can't believe we just saw it.
It's like when you would spitball with your buddies and like, oh, what would be the perfect kind of play you can drop onto the honest Bucks? It's literally Dame, and I know I've made this point before, but it was just so striking. Like this is the kind of game. I mean, the Bucks lost like this exact game last season. No, Like the frustrating game against the Sixers, literally against the Sixers, where they had it won and Giannis presses. And I think Giannis just wants to dominate Embiid. And I think he just gets, we'll talk more about Giannis soon, but everything gets gummed up. And we've seen them, like, I think was it last season or 2 years ago? I remember a game very similar to this, except the other outcome. And I just remember it was so frustrating.
To be fair, this has been every Bucks Sixers game for the last like 5 years.
Yeah, they've been pretty just nasty. It's probably good we haven't had too many of these none of them playoff series because they don't go far enough in the playoffs, of course. That's a good thing to just slide in there. But it's the perfect player to drop in, both because I think he fits perfectly, Damian Lillard. Also, it's just good if you can drop another superstar in. I think that's generally helpful. Yeah. And I think Dame, without a doubt, exclamation point, is a superstar. And for the people who think that, like, when I say that, there's a line to me between star and superstar. I think a star, I don't want to, Paul George is a star. A superstar, I think, is different. I think Dame is different. I think he's been underrated. I know he was MVP votes last year.
I know you could say it in sort of this scenario too. Like Chris Middleton is a star player.
Drew
Holiday, star player. Damian Lillard, superstar.
A clearer way to put it, it's all star versus all NBA.
Yeah, Dame is an all NBA guy. All NBA, or like usually first team all NBA guy.
Yeah, Dame tonight, 39 points as you said, 8 rebounds, just 4 assists. 2 fouls.
Was it 39? I thought it was 38.
39.
Oh, wow.
He didn't miss any free throws. 17 for 17 from the free throw line. Do you want to hear a crazy stat? Shout out to Rare Monkey in our Discord for first bringing this to my attention. Do you know what in 3 years as a Buck, do you know the most free throws Drew Holiday made in a game? A single game?
Oh, man. It's probably going to be like 7.
8, pretty close. And this is not to rag on Drew. Again, it's just literally for the point of comparison, going from your all-star point guard who helped the Bucks win a championship, will be in the rafters. I'm really not trying to denigrate Drew Holiday here. Dame made 17, took and made 17 in his first Bucks game. 1 game to more than double up what Drew could ever do. And it was crucial because the funny thing about this Dame game, wasn't all that great of a game from Dame. He's 4 for 12 from 3. His 2-point shot was really good, and I think his rim explosiveness is something I really underrated, especially at this point in his career. He gets to the rim so fast, and he's so I thought a couple times he was just both from 3 and at the rim, which is kind of funny. I thought he was just kind of chucking up garbage, and then the ball is like on the rim and going in. And you're just like, how is that possible? It's not just the threes. He had a pair actually of insane makes on just drawing a foul, which it's always fun. Chris does that once every 2 months. It's like, oh, it's super fun. Dame did it twice in the first game. Like it's just crazy. But also going to the rim. He had one where he was like falling away, getting fouled. And I was like, oh, he just threw that straight up in the air. It's kind of a bad. And then it's like bouncing off front rim. And I was like, oh, he might get an and one out of this. He's so far ahead of everything we've seen. And I think we knew this, but you don't fully know it until you see it. And we sure saw it in this game. Oh my goodness, Dame time. I'm so excited.
He didn't tap the wrist. He didn't tap the wrist. I think
it's still Dame time.
Yeah. I know that, but I'm saying there was an opportunity.
I know. I want the GIF. I have to keep sharing the Blazers GIF. Shout out. Also, I want to say I've noticed we've got some Portland people tuning in. Shout out to any Blazers fans who are watching and rooting for. Yeah, we'll totally. I've been thinking about this before the season started. Actually, Rohan, this is a totally random diversion. You know what take I don't like?
Bandwagon fans are bad.
Wow. Yes. Really? Yes, exactly. Literally the exact words I was thinking. We do have a mind meld going on. I welcome everyone on the bandwagon, and I mean that. I'm not setting up a joke. Like, a lot of people, and I'm out of the state is fine too. Like, we'll take anyone. Seriously, like, I like talking about Bucks basketball. I want to share Bucks basketball with more people. But even in the state, I don't hold it against someone if they never watched the Bucks before. Because how many people's parents didn't watch the Bucks? I didn't watch the Bucks when I was little because my parents didn't watch. And it's not a slight against them. I mean, the Bucks were bad for decades. So I want to welcome anyone who's watching. And
we're not gatekeeping.
No, let's all enjoy. But this is going to be one of the best rides in Bucks basketball history. Let's all enjoy it.
Of course, we'll adopt Blazers fans.
Andrew's going bandwagon fan reporting for duty. Absolutely, hell yeah! First game as a Bucks fan was a good one for Andy.
Yeah, it's just welcome to everyone. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when he says like we couldn't really fathom it until we see it, and that's somewhat obvious, right? It's like you
Yeah.
can't really understand how things are going to go. You can have an idea of how things are going to go, but you can't really understand it until you see it. And we just saw it, like you said. I mean, one thing I want to say is Dame, like one of the points of emphasis about getting a guy like Dame is he was a great closer, right? Like he's one of the ultimate like closers in the game of basketball. Has done it on the high, like in the playoffs. Um, and the Bucks needed that. The Bucks absolutely needed that tonight. And at the end of the game, we saw Giannis like basically shoving the ball into Dame's hands and being like, "Hey, do your thing, man." And he delivered. Like I mentioned earlier, he had that ISO step back three on Kelly Oubre, who just decided to become like prime James Harden. I guess
Dude,
Sixers don't need James Harden; they have Kelly Oubre.
I'll take the L. I've definitely made Kelly Oubre jokes, not before the game specifically, but as soon as he hit the first BS shot, I was like, "Oh, he's tearing my heart out tonight." I could totally feel it coming. So salute Kelly Oubre. It's just so good, so charismatic, so handsome. He's doing all his poses, and I'm like, he's really living his best life out there. Go on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's not the first time Kelly Oubre has ever taken anything from James Harden. Moving on. It's I'll tell you.
Was it? Oh,
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So he hit that ISO step back three on Kelly Oubre. Then when the Sixers had cut the lead to, I believe, 2 points, he drives, gets fouled by Embiid, puts 2 free throws with 11 seconds left. Nick Nurse goes full Nick Nurse, challenges the call, loses his timeout, and the Bucks sealed the victory. And Dame delivered. Like he delivered in the clutch. He was as advertised, and I can't stress enough that this is game one. This is literally game one.
Yeah,
this is game one. Hopefully, not all games go like this.
Yeah,
but this was game one.
Here's to put numbers to that from Jamal Collier. Sixers led 104-102 with exactly 4 minutes left. From there, Dame scored 14 himself, nearly outscoring the Sixers who had 15. 14 points in 4 minutes. Just dominant. And not totally dominating the ball either. Although certainly a lot more late in the game, as we'll talk about how the offense changed. Like they just ran the horns every time. And I saw somebody in the Discord was like, that's their only set they have. It's the only one they need. I mean,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, it's just he went on a tear, and like we mentioned earlier, we'll get into it more. But Giannis did not have the best nights. But we've seen Giannis in the past be that guy. Say like, hey, by the way, down the stretch, I'm going to lead this team to victory. He's done it like time and time again. This isn't like we're trying to bash Giannis say he can't close. Like we've seen Giannis do it. I think the most important thing is to realize that the Bucks have two of these guys. So when one of them doesn't have it, the other guy can just go and do it, which is just, it blows my mind.
Yeah,
just like
that's what I felt about the staggering too.
This is the Milwaukee Bucks.
I know, dude. It's the Milwaukee Lakers. It feels like we're spoiled. This is an insane amount of talent. We never expected to see this on the Bucks. Also, shout out, we got more than 150 people in here celebrating Dame time. Just a real quick ask: subscribe, click the like button. 17 likes to 157 concurrent viewers. I can't speak on my podcast. Let's get those likes up, folks. But appreciate everyone tuning in. We do audio pods as well. If you've never tuned in before, gspn.info. It should be in the description to find all the stuff we do. We appreciate having you again. No bandwagons here. Everyone is welcome. What the staggering, though, we can use this and then we can stagger over to the honest conversation. What did you think about it? Because personally, I'm for it. I know we've done the math before. If each guy plays like 32 minutes, you play 20 together, 12 apart, that covers 44 minutes. So even with that very simplistic view, that's almost the whole game. You have at least one of them. Personally, I like that. I think if you can have a superstar on the court for almost the whole game, you should do that. And you can still have, again, 20 minutes of them together. It's not like they're checking in and ships passing in the night and not playing together at all. I'm for it. I like the staggering. I think they're both so good. They can dominate without each other and still have time to play together. But what are your thoughts, Rohan?
I think it's good because we saw, like, obviously this is a 1-game sample size. We shouldn't take what we saw in this game as what everything should be like going forward. But we sort of see how staggering can be a good thing. Like you allow Dame to be like more free flowing. You allow Giannis to dominate the ball more. Plus, you have these instances likely during, crunch time, clutch time, whatever the situation may be. You can have those two together. And by the way, in the minutes where you don't have either of those two on the court, and why not just have Chris Middleton there? Again, we'll talk about him a little bit later too.
People are already asking in chat. It was on a minutes restriction, so we hoped it would be higher, but we didn't hear that it would. I don't think there's really a mystery there, but if anyone is wondering, that's why. I think he stopped at 16. I was hoping mid-20s. Certainly a little disappointed, but of course they're being cautious with Chris, as they always do.
Of course. You don't want to take things too aggressively with Chris, especially considering his recent injury history. You want to let him take the time he needs. But theoretically, when the team is at full strength, you can have one of Giannis, Dame, and Chris on the court for all 48 minutes in a game, assuming it's not a blowout. But you can that's just ridiculous.
It's so spoiled.
It's like the Bucks have such a wealth of talent that they can do that is ridiculous. Like we've seen in the past, like one of the former big three of Drew, Chris, and Giannis against bench units, usually Drew or Chris against bench units, those units would really thrive. Now replace Drew with Dame and replace and move Chris down in the pecking order, and you just have Chris going up against backups, but you also Dame going up against backups at points too, because once Giannis rests, then it's sort of Dame time. We saw that in this game, when sort of the second unit started to come in. It was Dame who was on the court, not Giannis. And that's just, it's too easy. It's too easy for a guy like Damian Lillard's caliber to really play against like these half-second units, like these sort of second quarter units. It's unfair. And we saw him take advantage, like I mentioned earlier, 17 points in that second quarter. Yeah. So you can see how like staggering can be a good thing in this situation. However, again, one game sample, so we'll have to see how it trends going forward before making any full decisions.
The other benefit too, I think, is, and I think this is a good place to move into the Giannis combo itself, but these guys are both superstars. Part of that means like, not that they're just so used to having the ball and doing everything, both of them. And I think Dame is adjusting even better than Giannis. Like Dame is maybe too selfless, as I know people have said throughout preseason, but I mean, good on him. That's the attitude I think you have to take to make this work. But that's the other thing about the staggering is you can get back into certain configurations where, yeah, Dame can totally dominate the ball, or Giannis can dominate the ball because Dame's not out there. I think mixing in some of that still is good. Like, I don't think you want to totally take away that mentality from those guys, because there's going to be certain nights. I mean, this was a Dame night. I certainly think there's going to be nights where Giannis dominates a fourth quarter and ends a game, right? Like, we know that's going to be the case. So making sure that he's still got that mode and able to regularly access that is good. He tried to do that in this game, did not have a good game. Still, this is always the funny thing about Giannis' bad games. 23 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 7 turnovers, and 4 fouls. The turnovers, some pretty bad ones for sure, and took a lot of jumpers. The middies, he actually made a few.
Early shot clock jumpers.
0 for 3 from deep, and most of the threes were just bad. They were not the threes you want to see Giannis taking. I don't mind if he takes a jumper here and there. I really don't, because sometimes he gets on those little runs, and it's whatever. If he takes 1 or 2, he certainly took too many at a bad time, and it did feel like because of that, the game was slipping away again until Dame really just stepped up and closed out the Sixers for the whole team, basically. It wasn't a good game. You know what? I think one easy adjustment Giannis just has to make is, and it cleans up a lot of this.
What's that?
Just slow down a beat when you get the ball in those 4-on-3 advantage situations. And I think the best possessions Giannis had with Dame on the floor, he caught and just stopped for a second. Not, you don't slow down and like post up ISO old school basketball, but just
take a second to survey the
look
court.
Around, who's open. I think people take it for granted that for like 5 years now, Giannis has had to do so much, and the team around him did not have a Dame guy or anything close to it. And the only way he was able to get to the rim and score consistently was by just going. Just immediately gone. Got to get to the rim right now. He doesn't have to anymore. That's a big adjustment. And I think you saw some of these possessions where he gets it kind of in the painted area around the elbow, takes a minute, and then sees, oh, there's a gap over here because, the defense is going to a shooter. Oh, there's a pass I can make right there. I don't think it's going to take months and months for this. I think there's going to be times like this that it happens. Guess what? I mean, there's going to be times when he makes these drives and these decisions and it just works out more too. It's still Giannis, right? Like we're still talking about a 2-time MVP, one of the best, most dominant players of his generation.
MVP.
Yeah, Finals MVP as well. So not worried about Giannis at all. Certainly think he's going to look better a lot of nights and still just make progress.
To be fair, it's a massive adjustment for him. It's a massive adjustment for him. Like for a guy like Dame, it's almost less of an adjustment because you just have to keep being you. But because Giannis is trying to be that guy who's like he keeps saying like in these interviews, it's like, oh yeah, Dame's gonna have the ball more. Where this is Dame's team. It's like, yeah, out of the two of them, Giannis clearly wants to be the one to make the sacrifice out of any of them. Obviously, Dame's going to do some too. That's just how this works.
It's just easier when you're the guard to have the ball. It's easier to make the sacrifice as the guard because like you're just moving off ball, but you're still the lead guard for a lot of the time.
Exactly. So this is going to be a major adjustment for Giannis, sort of trying to fit in with Damian Lillard and sort of give up some more on-ball responsibilities and sort of shift some of your offensive responsibilities to the defensive end. So like it's going to take probably more time for Giannis to get adjusted to this than for Dame.
Yeah, I did notice some little things that were encouraging. There was one possession when Dame was out where Giannis kind of came up and immediately set a screen for Campaign. That's a little thing. But we just didn't always see that. A lot of the time in past seasons, Giannis would come up by the arc and just get the ball and then cook. So I think he's trying. I think it's just he's been in one mode for so long. It is. We just keep saying this word. People are going to get sick of hearing it. It is an adjustment. The free throws also weren't ideal. Somehow was a markedly better free throw shooter than Bobby Portis, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is not
Speaking
saying
of free
much.
throws, you want to hear a record? A record that was just tied. This is from Scott Grodsky.
Good follow.
Yeah, for sure, from CBS 58. He tweeted Damian Lillard 17 made free throws without a miss, ties a Bucks franchise record set by
Giannis in the finals. Yeah. That's so insane. Cool. That's so funny that it's Giannis who ties.
And Giannis, by the way, became the Bucks' all-time leading field goal made.
Oh, fun. The record everyone dreams about as a kid.
Past Kareem, as Jordan pointed out, just insane that Kareem did that in 6 seasons.
Yeah.
This is
he made a lot of shots. He also played like 45 minutes a night and didn't miss many games until he had the cornea scratch.
Highest pace of play for the NBA.
We should go one of these days when we have off seasons. Again, we should watch see if we can find full Kareem games because I bet it's weird to watch, but also really fun.
But yeah, just in terms of Giannis, just being able to sort of be in more control and like slow the game down just a smidge. And that's a good thing for you to call out because I think that would help him a lot in this situation. And just clean up the shot selection and you'll be good.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Because defensively, he was a monster.
Yeah, and this is something we talked about. We'd hope we see with him having it, hopefully do a little less offensively going for, and certainly Dame carried a lot of offensive load in this game. Giannis was great. And I thought one of the key moments of the game, the second to last Sixers run that was stopped, something we've never seen in the Bud era. Griff pulls the lever, puts Giannis on Embiid because Embiid starts hitting those threes. Brook Lopez just not able to get out there fast enough while containing Embiid. And Giannis just clamps in 3 straight possessions. The Sixers are turning the ball over left and right. I actually wanted to see more of that late. I wonder if the fouls kept the Bucks away from doing that, or maybe it was a rebounding thing. I'm not sure. But that was like a decisive, the kind of adjustment moment we've only seen happen to the Bucks. We haven't seen the Bucks do these. We've seen these done to the Bucks mostly, and it was great to see it go the other way. It was great to see Giannis step up to that challenge. Some great help defense as well, some awesome blocks, but he was fighting on Embiid and had some amazing plays guarding Joel, which really makes you excited about what this could look like in more situations where, probably not for full games, it's definitely not for full games in the regular season, but there's going to be these moments, I think, where the Bucks go, all right, you're beating somebody else, beat Giannis for a while. See how that goes.
Yeah, he doesn't have to do as much on the offensive end. He can save some stuff in the tank for the defensive end. But yeah, I think one thing that we've sort of overlooked so far is it's not only game 1 for Dame, it's game one for Adrian Griffin. And prior to, the Bucks trading for Damian Lillard, this was going to be the most intriguing thing about the Bucks this season was how is Adrian Griffin going to change the way the Bucks sort of look and act? Obviously, the Dame trade just throws everything just out the window, and it's like, yeah, this is the big thing. But this is still a first regular season win for Adrian Griffin as a member of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Never lost.
Yeah, never lost in the Adrian Griffin era. And like you mentioned, it's just these in-game sort of I hate adjustments. It's such a buzzword, but
it's true.
These in-game sort of tweaks, I'll say, where
you love your synonyms to make you feel better. Kenny was talking about the wall earlier. Were you like twitching? Yeah, the barrier. I was the barrier. I almost said to my screen, Kenny, the barrier. I was like, oh, he can't hear me.
Yeah, it's okay. Kenny knows he'll get there eventually, but. Just these subtle tweaks where it's like, yeah, I'm noticing that Embiid is sort of leveraging the space that Brook Lopez is using and like leveraging it to his advantage. Let's play a guy on him that doesn't really give him much space because he can keep up with him and maintain size, and that's Giannis. And just immediately out of that timeout, just Giannis gets him. They alter their pick and roll coverage. And it's just like, yeah, he showed why. He had an insane steal. He just sort of clamps him up. And a weirdly officiated game too, just on both sides. Just a weird game.
Yeah, game one for everyone.
Yeah, game one for everyone for sure. No flopping techs in this game.
Yeah,
so far. They can assign those after the game, right? I think so.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would really get one. People were saying "boss man" Jay Crowder on the illegal screen. I thought that was such a smart play by him, and I guess I'm stealing from when we'll talk. We talk about every player who plays on these pods, by the way. So we'll talk more boss man later, Jay Crowder. But the Sixers were sticking those legs out on a lot of screens, and the Bucks weren't flopping, and it wasn't getting called. And I think it's honestly genius of him to go, you know what? They're gonna have to call this one. Like they're doing this. I'm gonna fly away. I'm gonna flap my wings and fly, boss man style. And they're calling it, and I think that helps with the illegal screens going forward. A guy who had an awesome game. I think we can. I'm sure. No, we can't go to Crowder next. We're still Griffin.
Yeah, still Griffin.
I loved the when we got out of the timeout, when we got in the huddle, and we got to hear what he was saying to the team, talking about, we're okay with letting Joel shoot a little bit, then we'll take those away, but we're too soft on the rest of these closeouts. It did feel like the Bucks were instantly defensively malleable in a way that we certainly in the regular season have not seen very much.
They were reacting immediately to what's going on around them.
With players and scheme tweaks, which I think is
exactly
important to note both things.
And we just haven't seen that with Bud, but we get to see it now with Adrian Griffin, who gets the win over his former head coach.
I'm excited about the Griffin tenure. I really am.
Me too. There were some weird things like that lineup at the end of the third quarter was just strange.
I didn't hate it.
So strange. Why didn't you hate it?
Because
it's just a full bench lineup.
I got the idea of buying the rest. Like I thought it was a good idea. And if Portis hits one or two free throws, I think we'd look at it and say, oh, it kind of worked. And Embiid's off too. It's Maxey against bench. It was Marjan in there. Like you had some good athletic defensive players. I feel like the whole goal was just gum it up, waste 2 minutes. I think if Bobby hits the free throws and Campaign doesn't have a bad campaign game and go way too campaign in that 2 minutes, I think we look at it differently. The real thing, though, I think if Chris is able to play his minutes, he's out there, and then we look at it way differently. And if that's the concept going forward, I really don't mind. But yeah, it didn't end up working super well for the Bucks in this game. But overall, I liked the way Griffin coached. I liked how responsive, and I just liked how much stuff we saw. The zone gets busted out and has a couple really good possessions, but then goes away before the Sixers can adjust to it. Because that is, a lot of times you see teams play zone, and I feel like, the offense takes a minute to adjust. But if you get really used to playing it, I do think you can learn how to bust a zone, especially a player like Maxey. Seems like he'd be able to bust a zone pretty easy. The Bucks didn't stay in it for long. It was like 3 possessions, boom, turn the game a bit, and then go away from it. And also just doubling Embiid right away, which I've been anti-doubling Embiid from the past. But the way they doubled him, the way he played against it, it's hard to not liked the idea. And I mean,
they were smart about it. They used the sideline, the baseline as their as an extra defender because they trapped him as soon as he sort of started sizing up on the baseline. It's like, oh yeah, I can't like move out. And Embiid, not the greatest creator out of double teams we've ever seen in the NBA, for the volume that he gets.
He's a little wild.
So it's just being smart about it. It's not just doing it, but doing it in a way that actually makes sense.
I thought they got away with some bad ones. They kept sending Beasley from Maxey, and I was like, he's right there. Can we send Giannis
they were doing
baseline?
Backside rotations. They
were. I mean, there were some close. I think Maxey, honestly, I think they're gonna watch the film and go, "You got to just shoot like all of these, dude." I did think he had more space, but he wasn't, and maybe that's just a tendency thing as much as anything for the Bucks. I do think, as well as Maxey shoots from three, probably not a ton of those catching three or huge volume. Maybe I'm totally wrong about that, but certainly the Bucks got away with it tonight. My favorite Embiid moment was second half. The ball's passed to him, and he just like slaps it to Jay Crowder. I was like, why did you do that? Like, it's like what you would do if someone was holding you, but there was no one around him. What was the thought process there?
I thought when he went to do that, I was like, oh, that's going to be a great skip pass to I forget who was on the wing or on the top.
It might have been Tobias.
It just went straight to Bossman. I was like, okay,
like, thanks, Joel.
Yeah,
this is great. Yeah, that was very funny to me. Man, what a game. That was an intense game. It's kind of a fun way.
Adrian Griffin, it's going to be fun to see. It's going to be fun to see this going forward. Like we got some fun offensive stuff too. Like you mentioned, a lot of horn sets. And it's like these screens are being set at the logo, letting Dame use his speed to get downhill so quick. And it's like, again, the Bucks have never, ever, ever had a player like this, ever. I think the closest comparison speed-wise is Eric Bledsoe. But Dame also has other skills.
You could say that. Dame Lillard on his step back three. That's a look I'll take 7 days a week. That's a comfort shot.
I'm going to run through a wall.
Take it 8 days a week. Take it 9 days a week. Throw the Gregorian calendar out. Time doesn't exist. It's Dame time.
Even during your sleep, you're going to take a step back right out of bed and hit
Sham style. No sleep. Instead of screen time, it's Dame time. That's called living with respect. Oh my God. Somebody in the chat earlier asked if you're podcasting from purgatory. I think it was John, which I found very funny.
Listen, I'm going to have stuff on my wall. I'm going to have stuff on my wall starting tomorrow, but for the next pod, okay? Next pod, there will be something behind
Well, we'll see. We might have to do another emergency pod, just like we wake up and we're like, dude, that Dame game happened. Should we just do another hour 50? Just see how we're feeling tomorrow. Who do you want to talk about next?
Let's talk about campaign for 1 second, because I just had one thing to sort of note here. It's not really talking about campaign, but he played it was a 10-man rotation tonight, and campaign played the least amount of minutes of the bench guys, clocking in just shy of 9 minutes at 8 minutes and 56 seconds.
I've got something.
It's because Giannis was the backup point guard.
Oh, that's a good note. Speaking of the guy who got minutes over him, can you read this? I'm going to fill it out later when we talk about him, I think. I haven't totally decided.
Don't do it yet. It's too early.
Is it too early? It was good.
Too early.
For audio listeners, I'm holding up the Marjan Beauchamp apology form. It has one box. It says, I was wrong, and then a line to sign. So I'm going to keep this around and be ready. The other side is the Ben Ouja press PR release when the Herd hired him as head coach. I'm just going to keep this around. It's a teaser for when we get to Marjan. I liked what I saw.
Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him.
Why not? I think we can keep it. I made the form because I didn't expect what we saw defensively. He got dinged for some fouls. I think some really light ones.
Offensively, it was a little bit of a struggle.
I thought he moved well. I didn't think he did the wrong thing very much.
Yeah, but it just didn't end up going in his favor.
What was he, 2 for 3 with just the missed 3?
Yeah, but then he had like a drive and travel, I think.
Oh, yeah, I think he did. Overall, I mean, what he did defensively, I was most impressed by. I thought he did a pretty good job on Maxey. I like that they went to that a couple times. Again, just the kind of move we're not used to seeing as much, especially for a player that young. Or am I putting round pegs in square holes?
It's good to see. It's really quite rare for a player to be doing this in their like second year. I mean, obviously you have your defensive specialists who can come in and do that. Like the name that keeps coming to me is Tybal. Like just like as a young player who can be a great defender, but he is just it's a different type of player. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just rare for a guy like this to come in and just that's why defense is so difficult for guys who are like young players. It just takes a while to get used to NBA size, athleticism, speed, like physicality, all this sort of stuff. It takes time. And so that's why it's rare to see like a young guy like Marjan just stepping in and doing this.
I was encouraged and I was glad to see him get those minutes. And like you pointed out with Payne, end up not being ninth or 10th in minutes, getting up to ninth by the end of the game. And, within sniffing distance of Bobby there, 16 and a half for Marjan, 19 for Bobby. Let's just go Bobby next. Kind of a random order here, but I really liked Bobby Portis's game. I mean, I thought like you can tell he's responding to this style of play in a very positive fashion. Like this is a high energy brand of basketball, especially on the defensive end. And I feel like it suits his personality as much as his play style, and that just helps him succeed. Bobby's 5 for 8, doesn't take a 3, 0 for 4 from free throw. Like he's just gone like all kinds of shooting are bad, but everything around the rim has been quite good. And he continues to get offensive rebounds, to drive, which that's been a new thing this year. It's been pretty effective. And he had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, no turnovers, 3 fouls. The block on a charging Tyrese Maxey. Very impressive block. Good hands from Bobby Portis. He was energized. He brought energy. I loved Bobby's game.
It was really good to see, not just defensively, but offensively as well. Like just sort of the ability to just be frenetic and move. There was a play where he caught the ball at the top of the key, sort of faked it 3, passed it to Boss Man on the wing, who sort of it was an errant pass. He tried to catch it out of bounds, but immediately as soon as he threw that pass, he was cutting into the lane because there was a guy closing out on him, draws the defense, kicks it out to, I believe, Pat in the left corner for 3. I don't remember if he made the shot.
It was Pat. I think he did. I believe he did. I think I remember that sequence. It was really nice from all those players.
Yeah, but just like being able to just like utilize that energy for constant movement is great on the offensive end as well as the defensive end. I think it was a great game from Bobby. And I think you had tweeted this earlier in the game. It's just like, this is going to be a big year for Bobby.
I think it is. I think he's going to remain the 6th man. I'm not saying he's going to elevate to starter or anything, but if he continues to fit on both ends like that, I mean, we could see our best Bobby Portis Bucks season. And that's not something I say lightly. John
Someone
Patrick.
Go ahead.
John Patrick in the chat asked, what grade do you give Adrian Griffin game 1? We will do full Buck stock market returns for this game later on in the podcast. So not everyone gets a grade for every game, but I'm going to go ahead and spoiler. I'm going to advocate for Griff making some movement on the Buck stock market when we get there. Let's go to Crowder next.
I was going to say a guy who has a real chance to really step into the role in this rotation is Bossman 99. He might have been the most consistent player.
Yeah, very steady, very helpful. Every time you saw him, he was doing something that helped the team, is how I'd put this game.
Defensively, offensively, when the team is on a run, like that illegal screen call that you had mentioned earlier, that was in the midst of a massive Bucks run, and like Bossman being able to, I'm just going to keep calling him Bossman. I don't care.
We've said Crowder now. People know.
Yeah. So Bossman just being able to go through these screens, like fight through these screens, like that allows you to get these sort of calls and just hitting your shots. It's great. He's not making the dumb decisions that he was making during that playoff run where he just got 5 minutes a game because he was just buns. But it was just, it was smart basketball. This feels weird to say for a player of Crowder's caliber, but it was vintage Jay Crowder out there.
It was. I thought it was a great game. 3 for 4 from the field, made his only 3, made both of his 3 free throws.
He looked like that physical wing that the Bucks need.
He was that. 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, just 1 turnover and 3 fouls. There was pretty much everyone who was playing defense on both teams ended up in some sort of foul trouble. It was very much one of those games. He was the defensive organizer and just the guy who knows where to be offensively and just does what you need him to do. And I remain confident he can continue that and carry that into the playoffs with more time with the team. And he, like Portis, someone who I think is benefiting immediately from the new coaching staff here that the Bucks have. I think a lot of guys are. I think the coaching was good all around, but those individual players especially. So shout out to Crowder for an awesome game. Let's go back to the starters here. Let's cover Chris quickly. On the minutes restriction, played a bit over 16. You know, the numbers aren't going to call out to anyone. He was 2 for 5 from the field, 1 for 3 from deep, made one of his 2 free throws, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers. Had a fast break coast to coast on a steal that was pretty fun. Chris getting involved in the aggression. I thought he looked fine. I mean, it's just hard to accomplish too much in those limited minutes. I do think, I know I railed against not caring who brings the ball up. I do think they probably had him do it a bit too much when the Sixers were pressing. If they're not pressing, I don't care, but we all know Chris is not the tightest handle, so probably just have Dame or Giannis do that more often. But overall, I thought fine. It wasn't bad. I mean, the Bucks were really good in his minutes, and hopefully he can get up in the 20s soon, and then, of course, up to the 30s mark you'd look for from your third best player.
Yeah, it's just going to be a ramp up process. Not the first time we heard that phrase tonight, but it's gonna be a ramp up process for Chris as he sort of starts to recover, get his game legs under him. Like we talked about earlier, ideally in the rotation, it's like, yeah, you have one of Giannis, Dame, or Chris on the floor at all times when needed, and yeah, just it's like we just need to see him get a larger minutes and more attention, because it's just like this. It's tough to really gain anything from this.
Yeah, just a tease, a Chris tease. Had some vintage pull-up twos that was like, oh yeah, having some of those and that 2-minute stint that was no Dame or Giannis, that would solve a lot of those problems, I think.
So.
I think Brook Lopez, completely flipped the script I had on him after like the first 2 minutes. I was sitting watching the early first quarter fuming as he's like doubled up, not seeing Malik Beasley, like just kind of, I felt like Brook had a little bit of a feeling out process as well, but really ended up turning in an excellent game. I mean, I still think one of the best individual Embiid defenders in the league, even though they don't ask him to do it alone anymore. Brook ends up with 13 points on 5 for 7 shooting, 3 for 4 from deep, and some of those were like direct answers to some of the Sixers' biggest runs. And Brook was stepping up, knocking them down. The Noah work looks to still be paying off. Only 2 rebounds. People will say, oh, Brook doesn't rebound. Brook boxes out constantly. That's what Brook does. 2 turnovers, 4 fouls. Had some bad ones in the lane, kind of lost control of some. Whatever. We know Brook's limitations. I thought overall had a pretty strong game, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a classic normal Brook Lopez game. Like, he's going to hit some shots. He's going to probably a little bit offensively inflated game from Brook Lopez. He's not going to constantly be hitting these shots, but it's nice to see that he was just answering Embiid threes. At one point, I think Stan Van Gundy was like, yeah, it's a 3-point shooting contest between 7-footers out here.
It was pretty funny to watch that part of the game.
It was just like, oh, Embiid 3, oh, Brook 3, Embiid's coming down. Oh my God, here's Brook Lopez. It's like, who needs Dame and Giannis? We have Brook Lopez, by the way.
Here's the offensive threats.
Yeah, it's just crazy that just the wealth of talent this Bucks team has. But yeah, Brook Lopez, I don't know. I wasn't moved by this game, but I didn't feel bad about it.
Yeah, I thought defensively it was okay. Hard to have an impact with the way they whistled it. I didn't think it was Brook's best defensive game, but I thought he was fine. I didn't think he was like exposed or unable to cope in the scheme. And then offensively, he brought the juice. An intrepid viewer named Alex asked, where can I find the podcast if I want to listen to it again? Good question. You can find it at gspn.info or subscribing here on YouTube, but we're on all podcast platforms. Let's talk Malik Beasley. Somehow, is this the second to last rotation player we're going to cover? Somehow is Malik. We really saved this one here. I thought kind of a mixed bag performance. Funny enough, I like the defense more than the offense, I think. I think it was what I hoped for defensively. Like, he hung in there. He made guys work. He's not a stopper, but he got involved and made some plays on that end. Had 2 steals, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. Only scored 5 points. Only took 4 shots. I think the Bucks still need to get used to finding him a little more. He's just kind of over-eager, almost in some senses. He hugged Brook Lopez on Brook's first bucket of the game, which was pretty weird, and was going up for rebounds. He probably didn't need to. But what were your Malik Beasley thoughts?
I thought he was fine. I thought he was fighting well on defense. One thing that concerns me is that he died on a lot of screens. I mean, to be fair, Embiid's a big dude, and like him setting screens, it's easy to die on, but it's like, especially like a Maxi Embiid pick and roll.
Yeah,
But
those were some of the maxi threes that were getting open, right?
yeah, but it's just like you want to see him not like fall over and be on all fours
It'd be
during these
ideal.
screens. If you're gonna be that guy, like he wants to. I'm not saying I expect this, but this is what he has said. Adrian Griffin said he's gonna be the guy with these defensive assignments. Watch out for boss man, by the way, Malik Beasley.
Yeah.
I don't look insane for saying he should maybe be a starter.
No, I
But
don't
for
think
now,
I
I
ever
think
said
I think
insane.
I think Malik Beasley is he's fine. He's fine. It works for now.
But you see what I'm saying. Just like if Boss Man was a 6'3" version of Boss Man, it would be.
If Boss Man was a 6'3" version of Boss Man.
Yeah, literally, yes. Like if Boss Man was like a quick 6'3" guy instead of a big, strong 6'6" or 7" or whatever he is guy, then I think, yeah, he should be the starter probably.
Yeah,
But
that's fair.
he's big. And like the player we're talking about is Tyrese Maxey. That's the issue. Like I don't feel good about Boss Man going around those screens either, or just straight up trying to stay in front of him. But I do see what you're saying and agree. He wasn't great on navigating some of those screens. I think the only player we have left is Patrick Connaughton. Thought he was started rough, but bounced back in a pretty big way. Here's one that sounds like Mad Libs. Clutch going over the screen, chase down or behind the play block on Tyrese Maxey from Pat Connaughton. I couldn't believe
Yeah,
there was no
when
whistle.
they busted out the zone defense,
Yeah.
it was that was one of the first plays out of it. Uh, it was crazy. He came out of the game immediately after, which was
Yeah.
hilarious. I
Well,
think the next possession.
well, that stint was funny because somebody called out in chat earlier. Like that was basically Griffin gave Giannis like a minute to just like I don't know. I don't even think it was rest. I really think it was like mental. Like, hey, just like sit for a minute, like watch the game, take a beat, and then come back. And I do think Giannis was a lot better after that minute as well. But I think that's what led to Pat going out, even though he did make such an incredible play. 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 4 from deep. Got to the line on a drive, made 2 free throws during that bench unit that ended up being very important.
It's again like he's been that guy on this team for the last 5 years now, which is insane. About who would just be a slasher for this team. I think one thing that's really changed about the makeup of the Bucks now is that they have more guys who can do that. So he has a risk of being sort of marginalized, but he also has the knowledge, the flexibility of playing with Giannis and Chris and Brooke for so long that he knows how to play with those guys, which is going to give him a bit of an edge going forward. All I'm saying is, Pat, there's going to be a competition for some minutes here.
Yeah, there is. It's a good shot. I also think, I mean, just defense is more needed now than before, and that doesn't favor Pat necessarily, right? Like
Who's not bad,
No,
but just like he can get overpowered.
not bad, but not plus.
I think that's a good way to put it.
So we are going to get into the Bucks stock market. I think we're gonna have a lot. I feel like this could be a pretty high movement game. But first, Rohan, let's talk about our. Oh, I was gonna do a transition. I'll still do it. Hey, I still think he's clutch. Don't sleep on Pat Connaughton. Let's talk about Sleeper. What a great transition from me. Totally natural, totally in the flow of the podcast. Our friends at Sleeper and their daily fantasy basketball. We really like Sleeper. So we have actually been talking about some of our picks most of the day. I mean, we stopped when the game came on. I realized mine were dead pretty early on. My daily fantasy day was not ideal. We'll see if you fared any better. We both did some silly first quarter ones, and then we did some more serious plays as well. But if you're not aware, Sleeper is daily fantasy basketball. You may know Sleeper, you do a full season fantasy there. Sleeper is awesome for that too. The Gyro Step NFL Fantasy Football League is there as well. But with the daily fantasy, you can win up to 100 times your payouts. You can place in-game contests. You can seek through for the best possible higher or lowers they have set on these. It's really fun to look through and see, what some of these target statistical benchmarks are for Sleeper. So definitely want to make sure everyone here knows code Eurostep Gyro Step to double your first deposit up to $100. That's five. That's five Rohan bets. Rohan bets big units. Rohan's a big baller, is what we learned from Sleeper. But Rohan, how about you share your first picks of the day here?
So I think we can just cover the series ones here. So for my entry, I had three. This was just Bucks Sixers. I had three higher lowers that I went with. First was Damian Lillard. I went lower than 7.5 assists.
Oh, that worked out.
It did.
When I heard you say Damian Lillard lower, I immediately got worried. I was like, oh, I don't know. That might not go well, Rohan.
Yeah, thankfully he wasn't passing the ball. He was scoring the ball. I mean, he did have what do you have, 4 assists in that game? So it's
I don't know. Bucks high.
Bucks high because everyone was just doing their own sort of scoring there. I had Giannis higher than 32.5 combined points and assists.
Oh, see, so I'll get into mine a little bit. I had Giannis more than 44.5 points, rebounds, assists. So not the same, but we joked we might have the same ones, similar ones there. Did not work out for either of us, I think, right?
No, 26 combined points and assists for Giannis.
Yeah. It was 39 points, rebounds, assists. Still not enough for what I needed there.
And I only had 3 on this one. I did Kelly Oubre higher than half an assist.
Did he do it?
No. Dude did not pass the ball once. I was watching him the whole game, said, hey, maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the time that Kelly Oubre passes the ball.
You can't blame him.
There was one possession where he was going into the lane. I believe it was Tyrese Maxey or someone who was just wide open in the corner, one pass away. I was like, you know what? I don't actively root for the Sixers, but this would be okay. And he just goes through the lane, gets an and one. I'm like, I can't say anything about Kelly Oubre.
Dude, the way he was shooting, I cannot blame him for not passing the ball. I really can't.
So I lost my tenner on that one. What were your 3?
I had a 5 spot. I already mentioned the Giannis one. I did this one. This is the only one out of this whole set of picks that worked. I had Embiid under 33.5 points and assists, which to me, I was like, the way the Bucks guard Embiid, doesn't usually rack up the assists. I liked my chances, and that was successful. But I had Malik Beasley with more than 10.5 points and assists, and he only got 8. And I really like that one because I think the mark was like 7.5 for just points, and then 8.5 for points and assists. And I was like, oh, Malik gets some assists. That could work out for me. He had 3 assists, but only 5 points. So I think I had the right idea, but it didn't work out. Didn't work out for us this time. But Rohan, we're going to be back next week. We're going to be trying. The way Rohan's been, you know what? I won't just say Rohan. The way I've been playing as well, we'll probably be back, maybe for these late night games, because you can make picks mid-game. That's the great thing about Sleeper. But remember, folks, use promo code EuroStep. You can get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. Those terms and conditions. Can't get away from them. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states, including Wisconsin, in case you were wondering. Check out Sleeper today. Go for a slam dunk on Sleeper picks, Rohan. Okay, speaking of slam dunk, should we talk about the Bucks stock market?
Yeah, let's do it. For anyone who's not familiar, the Bucks stock market is sort of how we keep track of how players are performing and trending throughout the season. We do start them off at different values. We had a full pod detailing our IPO for the 2023-2024 Bucks stock market. So it's like, obviously, Giannis is not going to start at the same level as Robin Lopez or anything.
Always the shade to Robin Lopez.
He's the worst player on the roster.
I'm not debating.
So we have, for example, like Giannis is starting out at 38 stocks while Robin Lopez starts out at 1. The minimum is 1.
Okay, we get it.
It's, but so each game we sort of track who's going up, who's going down in these regards. And it's not we don't grade everyone, just anyone who's sort of performed above or below what we consider their baseline. And we track those valuations and tweet them from @Eurostep Podcast after every game. So I have a tweet draft ready to go.
Yeah, usually a lot earlier than this. We don't always pod after the games. That's why this one's going out a little later.
So I think we can both agree that an immediate upstock for Damian Lillard.
I'm thinking 2.
It might be 2.
This is a 2er to me. You can't have a better game, a better debut game. He lifted the Bucks on his shoulders, Rohan.
He did. He did. First game in a Bucks uniform, and he put the team on his back. He played for the city on his jersey, on the front of his jersey, and he won the game for him. And that city is Milwaukee.
That's cool. Doesn't get old.
Giannis down.
Yeah, down 1.
Yeah.
He redeemed it late. I think we could have been flirting with 2 even because he just starts off so high. But I think down 1 is very fair.
And again, considering down 1, considering last season Giannis averaged around 30 points, over 30 points a game, and just like multiple assist guy, and he just sort of struggled today, sort of took some stuff out of the flow. And so I think it wasn't the best Giannis game, so we're going to give him a downside.
Yeah, totally fair. I am in complete agreement with you so far. Is that the last? I was going to say, is that the last movement for any starter?
Yes.
I think so too. Chris just didn't do enough. I thought Brook is close. Brook was close.
Brook was fine.
I mean, we know it was unsustainable, but
I'm going to say no. Considering he's starting
He's at 25. Okay, he's at 25. Okay, fair.
And for context, Giannis is at 38, Dame's at 32.
Now 37 and 34.
Yes.
Whose team is it, Rohan? Controversy?
Hey, it's a good controversy.
Yeah, it is.
I'll say that.
Yeah, it is.
Oh no, we have 2 players playing as like some of the best players in the league.
Oh my god, what are we gonna do?
It's gonna be a real shame.
Giannis is gonna be out of here in 4 years.
Sign the extension, baby. Jay Crowder up.
Yeah, I think for sure. We had him at 12, which is like pretty decent role player, but he played like a plus role player. Certainly deserving of the upstock and awesome. Just not a bad moment I can remember from Crowder.
No, not at all. We already talked about him. Bobby Portis up.
Yeah, I'm with it. Higher standard because Bobby started at 17, but again, just an all-around pretty awesome. Outside of the free throws. Did the free throws hold him back?
I considered it. They might.
He did have many big moments in a game this close, so I am willing to allow the upstock.
I think we can, especially game 1, you know.
Yeah.
And then I had Adrian Griffin up.
Yes. So we give him 2. He was at 2.
We'll give him 1 for now.
Two is too much.
We mentioned on the IPO pod that coaches are mostly going to be done, like Adrian Griffin's valuation is mostly going to be done as trends because it's tough to really see these things on a game-to-game basis. So it's going to be more trends, but since we saw like a lot of good things in game 1, we're going to give him an upstock just from 1 game.
You're not going to push for Marjan?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'd make the case for him.
He looked like a bench defensive stopper for guards, and I just didn't think he was that.
It doesn't take a lot to convince me on Marjan, Ty.
I mean, was that not impressive though? Or was that your expectation?
It kind of was, but I also have inflated expectations, which is why I'm glad we're doing this together.
Yeah,
He started at 8.
Yeah, I think he jumped off the screen in a lot of it. He just looked like he was doing the right thing most of the time. I know you said he had to travel. Did he have a turnover? No. Oh, no travels for a large march. 3 fouls. Maybe I don't know what he did, but no turnovers.
Oh, okay. My mistake.
Yeah. So yeah,
Marjan up.
Let's give Marjan 1. I thought this was the vision I had for Ajax. I'm not giving up on that yet, but Marjan really did it in this game. That's kind of what I hoped for. So I think he's worthy or deserving of the love there.
And I think that's it.
I think so too. So to recap, Dame up 2. I'm updating the sheet as we go here. Giannis down 1, the only down stock of the game. Marjan and Crowder both up 1, boss man. Adrian Griffin up 1, which is a good sign. I'll say, for people who aren't familiar with the Bucks stock market, I just don't remember, a coach getting a clear up stock, and me even asking about 2 in game 1, I really don't think it's us just like being ready to, jump on board the Griff train before the game even started. I think I was optimistic. I think we both thought, though, we have to see. That's all we kept saying, right? We got to see how he does. That's the thing with a rookie head coach. I thought overall pretty strong signs, even though there were, of course, some things that we would quibble with.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it's going to be a lot of times it's just going to be movements based on trends, but we saw a lot of good stuff today that we can easily point out to be a coach decision.
100%. Now I'm really excited for like just the whole rest of the year because I did think just the fluidity they played with was just so fun for me, and it just made the game so. I just feel like we haven't always seen the Bucks play in that, not just that style, that multitude of styles. And I do think it makes for just fun basketball. Plus the aggressive defense, the ball movement on offense. Did I just miss Bucks basketball, or was this a very fun, outside of the bad, the Sixers runs? But when the Bucks were going, it felt like a very fun Bucks are going game.
It was a fun Bucks are going game. Like we haven't seen an offense hum like this in a while at times. Obviously not throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
But at stretches we're like, oh my God, this is just a different level. And it's just coupled with Dame's debut, 39 points, just leading the league in scoring, game. I think.
Oh, cool.
MVP Dame incoming.
I'm here for it. I was gonna say if anyone in the chat has any stock disagreements, but we've already got some ideas. Kelp says Jim Harden up. You know what I thought a real take I had in this game? Pretty bad look for Harden because I thought their team looked a lot better with him not hogging the ball.
I mean, Kelly Oubre was James Harden.
Yes, and also just like I felt like Tobias is hilarious to me because he's like, wow, Tobias Harris has 4 minutes where you're like, damn, Tobias Harris is hooping, and then he's gone. I think Derek White is like this, but there's not many guys in the league where I'm just like, wow, I forgot how good he is. It's like, oh, wait, it's been 20 minutes. Has he touched the ball once? But like Maxey, of course, we know Maxey's good. We all knew Maxey would flourish without Harden, but I did think they looked pretty good overall without him on the ball so much in that game. And then Andrew says Nick Nurse up 1.
Philly fans are in for a good ride. Did you see? It was funny seeing the Raptors locker room after they won. I forget who they beat. Was it like the Pistons or something?
Yeah. I think the Pistons Heat played. I think it was someone else.
You're right. I forget who it was.
Yeah.
But they played against someone, and it's like Darko got his first win as a head coach. He's just like dancing and screaming in the locker room. All the players are shouting. I was like, this is such a stark contrast to last year.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my goodness.
Somebody asked Cheo asked no Bobby Portis movement. He did get an upstock. If I forgot to say that on the recap, that's my bad. They're sharing.
They beat the Timberwolves.
Thank you. They're sharing. People are joking about Giannis saying this is his team before the game in that sit down with Chris Haynes. He's lying. Everyone does. Steph said this about KD. LeBron's been trying to sell this about Anthony Davis for 4 years.
He still can't do it.
No, it still doesn't hold up in the light. We all know. Listen, maybe tonight it was. Maybe there'll be more push and pull, but just for reasons beyond what happens on the floor, game to game. We all know it's Giannis' team, and so does Dame. To be clear, we've joked about it. I don't think there's any issue. I don't think there's any controversy. I think we're good.
I think the Bucks are going to be really good and win a lot of games and compete for a title and are maybe the best team in the NBA.
I agree. Even though the Celtics are the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Which was actually not yet invented when they won most of their championships.
I heard Kristaps' 30 bomb was just the greatest debut anyone's ever seen.
The number 1 debut against your old team on opening night of the season.
When I saw that, I was like, it's that Thad Young graphic.
Literally, Carter Rodriguez quote tweeted it just with that graphic.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a great pull from both of you.
Shout out to Carter. But it's just hilarious. Hilarious stuff here. I should probably tweet the stuff.
Oh, yeah. Somebody Rewind Decor, which I have some questions about that username, asked, what do you expect to see different in game 2? I mean, I think it's not too much. Right? Like, hopefully just more Chris and just more flow and fluidity, but I wouldn't expect to see wholesale changes, although I guess...
a firmer grasp on how the flow of the game is going to go in terms of how are you going to stagger Giannis and Dame. Just clarity on that.
And also, we'll probably see different defenses depending on the opponent, because this was clearly a very Embiid-tailored defensive... Also, kind of hilarious that the coach of the Sixers is the one who drew up this strategy for Embiid. I mean, obviously, doubling someone is not trademarked, but I think Nurse's Raptors were probably famous in some senses for what they did to Embiid.
Yeah, for sure. And for context, the Bucks' next game is on Sunday against the Atlanta Hawks at home. And then they have a back-to-back against the Miami Heat on
Oh,
Monday at 7, again at home.
oh, it's Sunday, Monday. I thought you were saying after that. Oh, that Heat back to back. That's gonna be trying, I think, for a lot of fans. But I'm so excited, man. We got Damian Lillard.
We got Damian Lillard. He put up 39. Just he did what needed to be done.
Oh, what a game. What a
What a
night,
game
Rohan.
indeed.
Do we have anything else? Oh, I guess
Took the
not.
words
Then.
right out of my
I guess
mouth.
not. Then is what we're learning. Shout out to real quick. So you're probably gonna say it. We're still at like 140.
Yeah, shout out to everyone
people
who's like
watching
been writing
us.
in the chat, been watching us live.
Wow.
We do make sure you have notifications on, because we do lives after like big things like this. Like we went live after the Dame Lillard trade happened that day. We've done live pods for big games and stuff like that. So just keep your eyes peeled. We like doing this stuff, and we hope you guys like it too.
If you want
because
more
it's just
lives,
fun. We
it
just
is
feed
fun.
off the energy.
We do. If you want more lives, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and then make sure, go listen to the podcast too, or go play it when someone else is around. Go to a function and put it on and say, hey, this just dropped. Have you guys heard this? And then, boop, Gyro Step
Yeah, if you
Podcast
enjoyed
Network.
it, tell a friend.
Tell a friend, but we got to make sure the podcast keeps popping off as well. So,
yeah, for sure. Make sure you subscribed wherever you are listening to this. But subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out all of our links at gspn.info if you're unfamiliar. We've got Packers, we've got Brewers, we've got a catch-all movie. Like we have all your podcast needs covered, and it is time for the Bucks season. And
I just wanted to do that again. I'm not rushing you, to be clear. I'm just having fun with it here.
I know. I should have worn a watch. Oh,
can't believe that from you. You're the watch guy. GSPN's watch guy.
I know, it's bad. I could run and get one, but we're ending the pod anyway. But yeah, make sure we're gonna have you covered all season long. Gyro Step win in 6. It's gonna be on the same feed on your podcast platform of choice. Check out gspn.info for all of our links, including our Discord, which was popping during this this game. It's good to have the Discord back full-fledged during the Bucks regular season.
Proud of our fans in the Discord for only giving up on the game 14 times. That is actually a new record low for a Discord game. It is. So shout out to everyone in the Discord for
We're actually proud.
The unmitigated positivity involved in that.
But yeah, it's a great community. We'd love to have you. We don't hate bandwagon fans. We welcome everyone to Bucks basketball. And Pod Random, we'll talk